this is a big one for me, because as soon as I know that something's gone slightly wonky, everything derails. Even if it's not an elimination at that point, I will then inevitably get eliminated because my head is still on that one moment.
I think we've got to work on Kelly's disengagement. I think Kelly's disengagement is lacking skill.
Sounds like it.
So rather than focusing on what you lost, focusing on what you can gain, disengaging because there's nothing you can do about it right now. And remembering the saying that I gave you recently, which is the only meaning it has is the meaning you give it.
Welcome to the Absolute Dogs Sexier and Squirrel podcast. I'm Lauren Langman. I'm one of the world's leading dog trainers, and it's my mission to help owners become their dog's top priority. In each episode, you'll discover how to gain trust and communicate with your dog like never before, creating unbreakable bonds that make you the most exciting part of their world.
Hello and welcome to Sexier and Squirrel podcast, the podcast that gives you real life dog training results and sometimes human results too. Now, today I'm joined by the wonderful Kelly. She's a super friend of mine, and I know she wants to quiz me on mindset. Now, mindset is one of my favorite topics. It's something I'm for sure fairly experienced at, both in the competitive and the business world, alongside probably the personal world. You know what? I've experienced pretty much it all. And I'm very happy to share with you today mindset when it comes to dog sports, and mindset really being everything. Welcome, Kelly. I've given you all of the questions. I said, Kelly, you decide them, you make them, they're up to you. You ask what you want. So that shows you true trust in a friend. So Kelly, questioning. Welcome you. And I don't know if you want to introduce yourself a little as to why this topic really interests you and what it means to you, because actually this podcast really does help, hopefully, you and your journey, but also other people may be able to resonate with it. And that's our goal, right?
Yeah. Absolutely. I do think that lots of people are going to resonate with this. So just to kind of give everybody a little brief what happened at a big competition for me this year in August. I was at the Canadian Open. Expectation didn't meet reality. Let's just put it that way. I obviously jumped on the phone to you, and I've got to say thank you so much for doing that, because that was a big deal for me. Like, I can't believe that I messaged and reached out to you, and then all of a sudden you were there to support me. So
and I was in the US.
Thank you.
And never, always here for you, and love connecting with you on every level. But most of all, the thing that I think I love that you reached out. I love that you reached out. I think the reaching out is probably one of the first bravest moves you can make. And like expectation and reality didn't meet. I don't know if you want to just clarify that a little bit more. Like, what actually happened? You were so excited. You buzzed up. You're really buzzed up. And your expectation and reality, that was what happened. And then frustration hits. Now, your frustration came out in upset, whereas some people's can come out in like trying to punch a wall or kick down a door or get angry at their dog or get angry at their sibling or their mother or their father or their brother, that type of thing. Yours came out in serious like sadness. You were sad. So just explain what happened and expectation and reality and why they were different.
I guess it was the first competition where I felt that I had prepped ahead of time for it. Knowing now that it was a big lesson for me, and I've learned lots from it and things that I can definitely improve. But it was because I felt that for the first time, I actually had put some effort and time into preparing myself for that competition. Now I know that it was kind of like the wrong prep, but that's just me, lesson learned kind of thing. So I think that's where the expectation didn't meet reality kind of kicked in. And there was a lot of beating myself up, because I remember the first thing that came out of my mouth when I jumped on the phone to you is I felt that I'd let Elsie down. And that's, I think, one of my big things in agility is that I do a lot of training and prep for the dogs, but I don't really think about myself. And I think a lot of our listeners will probably resonate with that. If you're into dog sports, you tend to pile every bit of focus and effort and attention into your dogs, but you don't tend to do the same for yourself. And one of the big takeaways from that experience was the fact that I know I need to work on myself a whole lot more, which is why we've come up with this amazing podcast topic. And I know that it's going to help so many people, because mindset in competition is massive. And it's something that I've never really focused on enough for it to have it as an impact, if that makes sense. I know that it's something that we should all be doing, but it's not something that it's you just focused on the dog training, don't you, rather than yourself.
And I want to add to this, Kelly, and I think this is really important that we do add to this. I want to add to this that actually you said something there that really I could pick up. You said, I worked on things, but I worked on the wrong things. And I love what you commented there. And I'm going to add and raise you on this. Sometimes I work on things and I work on the right things and I work on the right things and it still goes wrong. And I think this is a really important takeaway that even within our mental prep, one of the things that we need to almost coach and prep ourselves for is even with everything in place in the right order at the right time, we are more likely to get a result. And at the same time, we're still working with a human and a dog. And I've just learned with sheep, you're working with 10 sheep as well, which I have to say makes it a little harder. And so however you're competing, whether that be in sheepdog trials, whether you're in like disc dog, whether you're like Kelly and I and you're doing agility, and Kelly and I are doing agility in very different places where I've noticed that the agility is different. And at the same time, obedience, competitive obedience, flyball, whatever you might think about competing in, and this might even be a separate life, somewhere you compete differently. I don't know, you compete in knitting. Whatever you're competing in, you can do everything right and it still goes wrong. And I think that's so important to acknowledge, because I think you're putting a lot of the onus there already on yourself. My prep was, and potentially, yes, some of it was. And at the same time, we're all growing, we're all learning. That's fine. I don't want you to be too hard on yourself. I do want you to acknowledge that even with all of the right prep, it can still go wrong. And so an example of that for me is as at the last week, I was in an event and I had a jumping round and I knew the course. And I knew everything inside out and everything was perfect. And as the dog came down the line, she went way wider than I thought. As she went way wider than I thought, I needed to change her line to put her back on the line I needed her before she ran around the jump. There's your number one. I caught her before she went around the jump. So she didn't go around the jump and she didn't get a fault. I caught her. Brilliant. Spotted that. Okay. I then put my arm back and realized she was on the wrong lead leg and I needed to change her leg. Caught it, spotted it. I then pushed around the back of the jump, pushed my leg in and moved off to make the move that I needed to make. And as I moved off, she jumped the wrong side of the jump. For me, there were so many things that had gone wrong there, but so many things previously to that event that had gone right. And that one single moment where the dog went wide meant that we weren't going to Crufts. And yet we'd worked all year to go to Crufts. And this was the semi-final with just like 12 dogs or something in it. Like 6 of those dogs were going through and I was one of those 6. And I'd written it that I was one of those 6. And it still goes wrong. I then won the next round, but it doesn't matter because you've got to do a cumulative. It's got to be both rounds you need to get a result in. And so am I disappointed? Yes. Is it understandable? Yes. Can I understand where I maybe needed to hold on a bit longer? And these things are split-second decisions, Kelly, and they're tiny, tiny things. So I just wanted to pull up that even on the best days, it still goes wrong. So anyway, back to you questioning.
Okay. I've got my questions ready, so I'm going to start firing them at you now.
Interrogation on.
Okay. My first one is, what mental routines or rituals do you follow leading up to a competition day?
So I think this is really important. I've been competing for 25 years, really. So a long time, 24, 25 years, I would guess. And I used to get really nervous. And now I don't get nervous at all until I'm on a start line. And even then, it's often only the top competition start line. So Olympia, Crufts, Worlds, places like that. That's where my heart will beat a bit and I just feel it. And I now welcome it because I miss it. I don't get it so much. But for me, I think one of the things that's really important is you prepare everything and put everything into place that you're going to do or need to communicate. For example, when I go to a competition, Kelly, I leave a lot of my animals at home. I've got ponies, I've got sheep, I've got chickens, I've got goats, I've got lots of animals at home that I leave, including sometimes my older dogs who stay at home with our team. And so for me, things like that I put into place, that's part of my mental ritual. So, for example, if you're going to be out of town or if you're going to have I don't want someone to ring me and me have to make a fast decision without having prepped it almost. So I know who I can delegate to and I know who they can go to. And so for me, one of the things I would say for you and for anybody else in terms of mental prep, have everything organized, have everything in place, have everyone know what their job is when it's not to contact you on a competition day. Have everyone aware that you are competing if they need to be. And for my life, that might be slightly different to some of the people listening here and yours. But I have many moving plates and spinning plates, and I've become quite good at juggling, theoretically. And therefore, I need to make sure everyone knows what their job is while I'm doing my job. And for me, that's a big part of my mental prep. The second one that I would do is I'd make sure that Matt or Tom or whoever's going to help you at an event, like they know what they're doing. And I do think that helps to have someone that you can sort of buddy up alongside or side with a little, so that they can sort of prep with you. For me, I don't like more than about 5 minutes with a dog before I run. So I want the dog warm and I want to warm up with my dog, but I don't want them there expecting loads of treats or expecting loads of games for longer than 5 minutes. I think they go off the boil. I think they're better not, I think they're better kept like fresh. And so again, I'll communicate all of this to the person that's helping me if I have any help. And if I don't have any help, then I've got my crate or I've got my boundary or I've got my tactic to do that. I do look at my judges and I do look at my potential courses and I do look at my potential ground conditions, Kelly. And those would be things I'd want to prep in advance. So say you're going to be competing on sand, I want to train on sand. Say you're going to be competing on turf, I want to be training on AstroTurf. And one of my favorite reasons for loving Crufts is it's a home surface for me. So for me, it feels like being at home. And the other one I really, really love working in, and I love working in this one, is a centre that's up the road from us where they have competitions, because it feels like home again. So I personally will prep at events like that as well. But for me, there's probably no like quick answer on what I do for mental prep. Have everything in place. Make sure you know everything that you need to do before the time you need to do it. And the art of delegation is fine there as well. So if there's someone that you can delegate to, either someone you train with or your partner or someone else, can you get the car ready for me? Make sure that, for example, the windscreen wipers are working and there's fluid in them to be able to clear off windscreens, and the tires are good. Like, put all those things in place. Fill your car up the day before. Like, don't leave those things to chance in the day. I think that's really, really key. And if you're the type of person that talks yourself out of things and talks yourself to yourself negatively, knowing how to interrupt that too as you lead up to an event. So knowing how to like catch yourself and spot yourself doing it. No, absolutely not. Stop that. Move on. Or putting someone in charge of doing that as well. So those would all be some of my prep things. Knowing where the lunch breaks are, knowing whether I'm taking food with me, knowing, because food is important to you and I, Kelly, knowing dogs are going to be well hydrated or how I'm going to feed them. I'll give you another example here. Venture was bad at the weekend, and I think that part of it was she'd had too much food the days leading up to it. I think she was actually a bit heavy. I think she was a bit bored of, I think I'd done so much physio work with her where we'd been feeding her, and I think she'd done so much fitness and sports work. I think she's just a bit fat. I think she was just a bit overfed, like just had too many big meals leading up to an event, wasn't particularly bothered about eating. And that's hard to work with a dog when they're not bothered by eating, because they're kind of a bit disinterested. So yeah, loads and loads there, Kelly.
Okay, my next question, how do you stay present and focused during a competition day?
I think that's really good. I think that you can only stay present for so much of it. I think it's actually hard to stay present for the whole day. So I think let's be realistic. I want to be present 5 minutes before my run, during my run, and 5 minutes after my run. Other than that, I'm not staying present the whole day. What I'm going to do is be able to switch on and off. Now, you're going to find your ample or your appropriate time. Yours might be 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes. I'm probably on the abnormal competitor side. I'm the other way. I'm quite chilled. And so because I'm quite chilled and I'm quite willing to have a coffee and chat and a Prosecco and some pizza and anything else, and I have been known on competition days, and it has not helped my competition day, because I'm the other way and I'm a little too relaxed at times, I actually find 5 minutes is good for me, because if I go a lot longer than 5 minutes, I will not stay present and I'll drop back into chatting or casual or being a little bit over friendly or over familiar or all of those things. And that's, I think, part of my way of being at a competition all day. And I think I am very chill in that way. So 5 minutes works for me. You might have 10 minutes, 20 minutes, 30 minutes. I know if I get my dog 3 or 4 dogs before they run, that's perfect timing for me. So that's where I use Matt to try and run up that timing. So I try not to have the dog with me too much before that, but he has already done some warm up. At the same time, does depend on the dog. With a dog like Tokyo, for example, I had him with me a lot longer beforehand because I needed to make sure that his head was completely with me and I had a different connection with him. I think it really does depend on the dog that you're working as well. For something like Skittle, she's a really hot dog. She's like busy, 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 hot. Let's go, let's go, let's go. If you have her out for longer than sort of 10 minutes beforehand, she's actually burnt out. And you think you might have 3 or 4 runs a day. That's a lot. And when she gets into championship, you're talking 3 runs if she gets into a final, plus any other competitive runs. So I think it's what's right for you and what's right for the dog. But staying present for me, those help. The other thing is not always having friends to chat to. I think that's quite important, being able to effectively disengage from friends and go back to the car. So I like using the car as a bit of a reset space, put the heated seat on, sit there, think about life, maybe eat some snacks, And I go back and put myself in spaces that I can't just be actively talking or gossiping or involved in conversations, because you know what dog people are like when lots of dog people get talking. And so for me, only thing they completely agree about is that they don't agree. And so I personally think that for me, it's quite good to give myself some time out from that. I find that it can be a little bit insular at times if you're, the conversation. So I do like to move myself away. Next one, I think staying present would be work out the right people around me. And I think that really helps as well, because some people will say to you, right, you need to get focused on your run now. Perfect person. Whereas you've got other people who just keep chatting away. And suddenly you're on the line and you're like, you also know who I'm best hanging out with and who I'm best surrounding myself with. I think those are really important. And then some real random ones that kind of help me to become present. A great trainer of mine used to punch me in the arm, and she'd actually do this before you'd run. And it was a real present moment. She'd sometimes give me a real whack. And I'd be like, oh, yeah, got that one, like punch in the arm, because it's like that hurt. The other one I'll do is I'll pick a blade of grass and I'll look at the blade of grass and I'll try and take it in, the blade of grass. So I'll actually try and take in the detail on the grass. And then the other one, and these are just practical ones, is sometimes I'll have sunglasses on. If anyone sees me, I often have sunglasses on, not because I'm rude or I'm trying to avoid eye contact or anything else, which I've been told when we've got adverts out, people go, why are you so rude keeping your glasses on? Or it'd be great if you just took your glasses off. I actually have an eye condition where my eye is very, very affected by sunlight, and it's got sort of it's got a growth in my left eye. And so I do have to wear sunglasses pretty much all the time when I'm outside in sunlight or any sort of UV. And so actually taking off my sunglasses for my 30-second run does wake me up, because you've got real bright light that you weren't ready for. And so I do that maybe a minute or two to adjust before my run. And that bright light can really wake me up. So I think things like that too, for that actual run. But like I said, presence for me is just the run. And then you've got random enhancers like coffee. I don't drink coffee. And so when I do drink coffee, you know it, because I'm buzzing. I'm absolutely buzzing. And so caffeine does have a big impact on me. So I think things like that are quite helpful for a competition performance enhancer if you don't normally take it. So full caffeine, yeah, give it to me, baby. And then suddenly I'm like, wow, I'm buzzing. So, but again, no, handle that, because for me, I'm very present when I'm like that, and I'm very high energy. But Skittle doesn't need that. Something like Wild, who's my more placid dog, she would need that, but not Skittle. Like she needs you well away from any coffee. So yeah, those are just some of my thoughts. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. I love the friends one, because I definitely have had it like times in the past where I've known that I've needed to go and get a dog out the car, and you're kind of like trying to edge away from the conversation. So it's like knowing to kind of just put the boundary in and say, I've got to go.
The art of disengagement. We expect it of our dogs. We expect our dogs to be able to disengage. Why on earth can't we? Got to go. Need to put my best into my dog. Whole reason that I'm here today. I had an experience a few weeks ago, and for me, blew me away. A position where someone put someone else in a position where they effectively, I just felt the whole reason we're here is because of the dogs. Guys, let's not be selfish. And it was one of these moments that you realize the whole purpose of you being there that day is to compete. So if for anything, if anything kind of jumps in there that feels like it's really important, just question again, what are you there for that day? And so for me, for a few things, one is to be present and there with my dog. Two is to advocate for my dog and set my dog up for success. And three, personally, I'm there to show off games-based dog training. Like, I want to showcase it. I want people to see it. I want people to realize they don't need to use prong collars and shock collars and choke chains. And I heard the other day, I was working with someone, and I heard the other day they were using a double choke chain on this dog to get it to leave toys. And so basically they're pulling both sides, which for me is horrific forms of dog training, not animal training at all. It's a bit like the old days where we break horses and we break dogs into training. It's just not how we do it. We house break. Like it's not how we do things. And so that's what I'm there for. But these guys, sometimes I feel like we misconstrue it with, we're there for a great coffee, and we're there for a good glass of wine or whatever else it might be, or we're there to try and just be with our friends, for sure. But we're also there to train our dogs. And the reason that you're there is that dog. So be present, disengage, get the dog warmed up. For me, if I don't warm up my dog, I won't work them. My cool down I sometimes compromise, but my warm up I never compromise. They will always be warm. If I go to the start line and they're not warm, I'm not running them. So for me, yeah, all of the above, Kelly. But you can quiz me more, but that is my feeling there.
Yeah, Okay, I've got another question for you.
Yes, I love
Uh,
them.
so how do you approach setbacks or mistakes during a run? Because I think this is a big one for me. Because as soon as I know that something's gone slightly wonky, everything derails. And then I focus on that one moment in the run. And then even if it's not an elimination at that point, if something's gone a bit wonky, I will then inevitably get eliminated because my head is still on that one moment and I've not moved away from it, if that makes
I think
sense.
we've got to work on Kelly's disengagement. I think Kelly's disengagement is lacking skill
Sounds
level.
like it.
So I think we need to work on disengagement. So for me, like what's done is done. I can't change that. So what's done is done. And I'm not going to replay it or relive it in that moment. I don't want to replay it and relive it there. So depends whether I'm eliminated or not, because the class that I was in the other day, if I hadn't been eliminated, I could still have done very, very well in terms of winning. Really, I could have definitely still potentially had a qualification. So I think that's quite important to acknowledge. Either way, the question I would ask myself in that moment, and this is experience that allows you to ask this question: what can I get out of this run? What can I get out of this run? And if I feel there's nothing I can get out of the run, I'm going to take my dog out. And the reason I'm going to take my dog out, if there's nothing I can get for the run, is that actually I find I'm more likely to injure the dog. I'm more likely to injure myself. I'm more likely to do damage to something. I'm not from me harming it. Like I'm going to go and take on a jump. But you're more likely to, that's the moment you're going to injure them because you haven't thought about the angle or you haven't thought about what you're doing next or you've got no plan. So if there's nothing you can get from the run, and when I say like nothing you can get, the sort of things that I could get from the run, if I've only had faults, then I can probably still go ahead and continue that run to not get eliminated. And in a championship round, for us in the UK, if we've only had faults, then if you build the two together, then you can often still get through to a final. So, and it starts clean in the final. So great position to be in. If, for example, it's an agility round and there's another 2 contacts to go, I'll look at, can I just go train these contacts in the ring? So Skittle, when she's had errors over the last few months, I've always gone in and really nailed the seesaw. And I'm like, you are going to do one hell of a seesaw here. And I'm racing at it. And I'm like, seesaw, seesaw, seesaw. And I'm like, you are tested here. This is your test, little dog. Or say, for example, there's weave poles. I will push her hard on the entry and I'll fly through the exit and I'll be running across her on the exit. I'll be making it really hard for her. Like these are the ones I want to put in the bank for the next rounds. So I'm always putting 1 or 3 or 4 or 5 in the bank. So I've got more for the next time. Or another one I might do, say, for example, she breaks the start line and does something stupid on 1-2, then I put her back and reset the start line. And I'd be like, right, the start line's my focus. But know that you might be able to have a training opportunity. Another one I had the other day was there was a scenario that I would never have done competitively. I'd have always taken the easier route. But because I'd gone wrong, I took the hard route to test the dog to see whether they would listen in the high arousal. So those are sorts of examples I would say that you might be able to get from the run. So rather than focusing on what you lost, focusing on what you can gain. So I think looking at it in the positive, disengaging because there's nothing you can do about it right now. And remembering the saying that I gave you recently, which is the only meaning it has is the meaning you give it. And so the meaning it had the other day with me was just pause a fraction longer, Lauren. Like just pause a fraction longer. Whereas it could have been you're a failure or you're a terrible handler or your dog's stupid or your dog's not well trained or all of these things. Like you could have said all these things, but all I said was just patience on the leg, like just a bit more patience. That's all I needed. I just needed to pause for probably less than 1/10 of a second. And actually that's like minutia. It's like real detail. Like it's tiny. It's such a tiny thing. And so, and 99.9% of that run was good. And so, what can you get from the run? And I truly believe if you can get nothing from the run, and there's an example of that, it's a reel on my page where I take Skittle out of the ring and I say to people, guess why I took her out of the ring? And the main reason I took her out of the ring is I didn't see anything else I could get from the run. I'd done the weaves. It was jumping. It was in deep sand. Why am I going to keep her there for more jumps and slippy tunnels when there's no chance she can win? She's done the weaves. There's nothing in the course I want to skill up on and I hate the surface. What's the point? Like there is no point. And I got 4 or 5 people ran at me as I came out of the ring. Why'd you take her out? What's the reason? I was like, I don't need an extra reason to injure her. She's already a fast twitch, highly driven sports dog. It's bad surface. I've got no chance of qualifying or being clear on that. She's already been faulted. Like there's no need. And she's only looking for 1 win. She's looking for a win. If she can't get it here, she can get it next week. Let's not risk her. Don't risk it for a biscuit, so they say. No risk
One of
it.
my favorite sayings.
Exactly. No risking it for any hobnobs or any biscuits, Kelly.
Okay, my next question. It's kind of a bit related to the last one, but kind of, I guess, following a run. How do you keep a positive mindset when things don't go as planned during a competition day?
That's a
So how
great
do you
question.
keep going? So when you've had like a not a great run and then you're about to do another one, how do you kind of, I guess, decompartmentalize that and move on to the next?
Brilliant question. It's a reset. So it's an ability to reset. Again, I think it leads to the disengagement Kelly struggle. So we're going to have to work through disengagement. You've got to be able to disengage from that one and move to the next one. But also, Kelly, sometimes what you need to do is there is a space sometimes for going home. And I'll tell you the difference for me. So if I'm at a competition, there's a championship and I've done one round and the next round, I cannot do anything with it other than say, so I've done the agility round, I got eliminated. We've actually just had a rule change, which is great in the UK. I've just remembered. So now if you win the next round, you still go through. But in the past, unless you won that next round, there was no, sorry, if you couldn't do anything to go through on the next round. So for me, if I had an elimination in the agility and then the jumping was coming next, I would struggle to stay at that competition for the jumping because my question would be for what purpose? For what purpose? There's no chance of qualifying. So I do think it depends on what your space is. Now, for me, the reset is all about, is there anything in the next round or 2 rounds or 3 rounds or 4 rounds? If there's anything to be gained from the next round or 2 rounds or 3 rounds or 4 rounds, for me, I had exactly the example I'm going to give you. I had exactly the situation this week. I got eliminated on the first round. The second round was an agility. We've qualified to be there. I'm going to go hard and I'm going to win it. I'm winning it. I can't really get much from that run now. I can't go to the overall final, but I'm winning it. And I'm pushing hard to win it because why else be in that scenario other than to now showcase what you can do? And so there could be a space to set yourself a challenge and you put yourself under pressure. Or say it was at a smaller event, like a general competition, it might be a space to say, okay, I'm going to call it quits for today. I'm going to go home. I'm going to treat myself to a Starbucks or a Costa or other brands available. I'm sure lots of lovely independent brands. And I'm going to take myself home. I'm going to reset. I'm going to rethink. I'm going to have a bubble bath and a glass of wine or whatever it is that takes your fancy. And I'm going to go again next time harder and better. But right now I'm going home to get warm and I'm not going to sit here all day for no purpose. So I think it does depend on the purpose. Equally with Skittle, say she's at a show, each run counts at the moment. So every run she does counts. And so for those runs, the next run is a clean slate. Lose the last one, doesn't even matter. Analyze it tomorrow or the next day or the next day. Keep your video, decompartmentalize that. The video's there for later. Leave it alone, start afresh. If you feel there's a chance the dog has been hurt, obviously you're done for the day, maybe longer. If you feel that the dog has a lack of understanding of a skill, then manage that skill. And a great idea I had from another competitor, I was going into a competition and I said, I've not trained that weave entry and I missed it on the last round. And the judge set the same entry on weave 2 round. So exactly same entry. And he said, why don't you just push your leg in the way and then she can go around your leg and you manage it? And I went, oh, that's a good idea. Because normally I try and make the dog do it. But he just said, just push your leg in and make the dog go round it. I was like, great idea. Anyway, I did that round. I qualified on that round. I went through to the final and it was the first win of Blink's championship tickets. Sort of, she had loads. So it was a very first championship ticket win. And that is incredible. Like, and I'd written it off because the last run had been bad. And this guy in the ring, stick your leg in, make it easier. Great idea. Why didn't I think about that? Because I'm a dog trainer, not a competitor by nature. I'm more of a dog trainer. I think how I'm equal. I'd say I'm equally a good competitor now. I've got a real competitive mindset and I don't get scared by competition. In fact, I thrive on it. I love it. And I love standing on a start line and feeling like, yeah, I'm going to take this on. I love being, I'm a good competitor. I do feel I'm a very strong competitor because no one can, I've had more tests than anyone needs in a year. Like, you can't mess with my mindset on a start line. Like, you just can't. And I love being in that place, Kelly. I'm like, yeah, try me. Like, you try me. In fact, you'll fire me up. And that I love being in that space because it's so much better than what I've experienced in the past. And the feeling of driving home when you've had a horrible time competing is just horrible. I've been there, like times where I've driven home in silence, like not speaking to Matt, poor Matt, because I'm just so mad, not at him, at myself, so mad at myself. And I have to say, I'm so glad to see the back of those days. And I think one of the biggest things that takes you into those days is I suppose the ability to reflect and the experience, which I get is hard to have, so you can hack off some of mine, but it's perspective on it. It's perspective of losing like your partner and your best mate, and it's just perspective of losing your dad, and perspective of losing, for me, Tokyo was just huge. And all of that perspective kicks in to now make me go, this is dog agility. I'm here to have fun. I'm so privileged to run with this dog, and I'm so privileged to space, and to have times when I haven't run in that space, and to have times where I've not been able to be there for any reason. Like Tokyo, I just couldn't bear the idea of like not competing, but I also couldn't bear the idea of competing either. Like when you've had those moments, I think it just gives you great perspective. So you see it as a huge privilege instead of overthinking it so much. I remember after losing Riot, Matt's dog, I remember this is like 15 years ago. And I just remember every time I stood on the start line with his sister, just feeling hugely grateful. And I think that when you go to those moments as well, it's just it's so much better. But to answer your question, being able to disengage from a poor run is important, and being able to park that and look at it later. And once I have looked at it, I'm not going to keep reliving it. Okay, put it in the training plan, write it up, delete. Let's move on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's really great advice. And it sounds to me like I need to work on the concept of disengagement. One of my favorite concepts to train dogs. I need to work on myself somehow.
But it's like, I mean, I had it this morning. We had these like Malteser ball things, and they were in the fridge, and 2 popped out of the bag. Just as it happened, they popped out. And so I grabbed them and I ate them. And then I moved the bag and 2 more popped out, and I grabbed them, and then 2 more. And I was like, disengage, Lauren, disengage, shut the fridge. But it's exactly the same, isn't it? Our dogs, we expect them to disengage from another dog. We need to disengage from something that happened so that we can move on to something better. I think that's really, really key when we compete.
Yeah. Okay, my next question is, what strategies do you use to manage external pressures, things like expectations from others and other people? Because I think that's a big thing for agility competitors, because you're kind of there in the ring, and some people are watching, or lots of people are watching, and obviously there's a judge. So how do you kind of manage those external kind of pressures from the things around you to kind of focus just on that run?
Yeah, number one is, like we talked about, presence, trying really hard just to be present with your dog and to let go of anything else outside the ring. So sometimes I'll just anchor it. So I'll like put my hand on something, and I'll chuck every worry or concern or person at the side of the ring, and I'll put my hand on the ring post or whatever it is. I think a routine, to a degree, as much as we're like ditch the routine, I do have a fairly clear routine around my start lines and around everything I do in getting that dog ready. So I feel like the second I go into that, I almost go into like a meditative state again. So I'm ready to sort of do that work with that dog. And someone said to me at a show once, it's about 4 years ago, and they said, God, Lauren, you're really scary at a show. And I looked and I was like, scary? Like, I'm really normal. And they said, well, I tried to talk to you just before you run. And I was like, oh yeah, I'm disengaging. Like I won't talk to someone just for a run. For me, I wouldn't do that to someone else. And so I don't think I'm rude, but I don't think I engage, which could be seen as rude. And so I won't bite on it. And so they thought I was really like serious. And I suppose and I said, I'm not actually really serious. I'm just focused. And whereas you might think I was angry, actually that was my focus. So my focus looks like it's laser target, like laser beam for me in those 4 minutes, 5 minutes. But get me before that, I'm fine. Get me after that, I'm fine. But don't get me in those 4 minutes. In terms of external pressures, again, the only meaning it has is the meaning you give it. Don't take it. There's one quite, it's not yours to take. It's not yours to take. What they think of you is none of your business. And I think that the only person that really matters is what you think of you. And I think that's where you need to start. And most of us need to start sometimes just liking what we're doing and loving what we're up to. And when we go back to the state of where focus goes, energy flows, what we focus on, we get. What we focus on, we're almost casting spells to the universe in the way we're doing it. Well, let's start focusing on all the good. Let's start focusing on all the things we want. Let's start focusing on the fact that we're going to have a blooming good round, or let's start focusing on managing our expectations correctly. And we're going to do a round where we at least don't get eliminated, or have a round where we keep 90% of the bars up, or we have a round where we get the weaves first time. And when we start to set realistic expectations, we start to laser our focus, we start to let go of others' expectations, because the only meaning it has is the meaning we give it, and we don't give it any meaning. We start to find that actually the run comes to like together. And so for me, if my first goal with, let's say, Skittles, who's a new dog going into competition, is can she get 12 weaves in the ring? Woo. And actually, she's got most of her 12 weaves in the ring. And if you don't watch us in Agility Academy, get on Agility Academy. It's super cheap, super accessible, videos of everything. And I videoed all of her running contacts. I videoed all of her weaves. They're about to hit the Agility Academy. The edit team are on them. And so they're all there. And for me, my next port would be, or call would be, okay, she's got all of her weaves. Can she hit all her contacts in the ring? Great. Okay, now she's hitting all the contacts in the ring. Can she keep all her jumps up? Brilliant. Can she start line? Brilliant. Can she play at the end? Does she recall? Brilliant. All of these things are in place. And yes, she does all those things, but putting them all together in a competition environment can be tough for a dog. Suddenly you're winning classes and you're like, hang on a second, when did Skittles win 8 classes? She's won 8 classes. Like, that's amazing. She's not even two. Like, she's not even 2. And she's not been to many shows. And here's the thing that's really important. At that point, I stop competing and I give her 3 weeks off. So she's given 3 weeks off. We're on holiday right now. She's given time off. I don't believe in working your dog hard. I believe in working your dog smart. Your dog only has so many jumps in them. And I feel that it's really important that we recognize that in a dog, and we recognize that in ourselves. And if you can't do it, then go on holiday, because then you can't work them. Like, that's my strategy. Another country, and then I really can't do anything with her. And so yeah, I think that those expectations are none of your business. I think that's probably, again, a disengagement strategy becoming a theme. And
yeah, it is.
I really like that saying of, what other people think of you is none of your business.
Yeah, I love it.
That's good. Whether it's good or bad, because actually they might be going, you could win this, you could win this, you can win this. But I think competitive people and competitive spaces are not always kind. And I was watching someone on a final line the other day, and they were leading, and someone behind them was running soon, and then someone else was running. Anyway, they went into second or third place. It was a trophy place. And then she was on the start line shouting at the other competitor, I hope you win. I hope you do it. I hope you do it. But she didn't. You could feel it in her intention. She didn't. She actually wanted to stay on the podium place, and she was actively hating at them. But she was coming across like she was their jolly mate. And I'm like, you're not their jolly mate. I can feel that. I'm quite energetically aligned. I can feel that. Like, you aren't genuine here. And I just think sometimes give yourself space from people like that as well. Your people might be really great and expecting really good things. I think that a competitive world is, I mean, they say dog eat dog world. And I think that it can be. And so as much as I want to align with other competitors, I also know that you are your biggest focus, and where your focus goes, your energy will flow, and other energies too will flow. And so for me, it's really important you focus on the right things and you can disengage from the other.
Brilliant. My next set of questions are kind of like post the day, if that makes sense. So post competition day. So what questions do you ask yourself after a run, like after the day, to kind of evaluate how it went, and I guess to formulate then a plan going ahead?
I give it a little bit of time, and then when it's appropriate, I'll look back on my videos and I'll say, how could I have been better here? So I'll look and see whether I could have been better. And the run that I had the other day, I'll also ask Matt, I'm like, she didn't take that jump. And he's like, you didn't hold quite long enough. So I think my video analysis, Kelly, and straight away to when you feel you're able to look at it. If you're upset with yourself, don't look then. Look when you're in a calmer space. And if you need to be in a calmer space, grab a glass of gin. Like, whatever makes you a little bit like calmer. I don't think you want to look at it in that immediate emotional response space. When you're in that emotional response, it's not healthy. Don't look then.
No, that's really good advice, actually, because what I tend to do is look at the video immediately after the run. And that's obviously not a good time to be looking at it if it's not gone quite to plan.
Give yourself a minute. If it's gone to plan, of course, watch it, relish it, dance in it. If it's not gone to plan, park it, watch it later, move on, disengage. Unless there's something that you think, like sometimes if it's a contact, I want to see what I did to cause a miss. Or if it's something to do with maybe a jump action, maybe there's something up with the dog. But other than that, I'm not going to watch it.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Again, the through line of this episode is Kelly needs to learn disengagement.
Through line. Love that.
Oh dear. How do you celebrate successes, big or small, to keep that positive mindset? So how do you take something from a run and have it as a positive thing, even if it's not gone to plan.
This is brilliant. And I think celebration in itself should be something brilliant. Like so often we don't celebrate, and actually celebration is part of anchoring more success. So we should celebrate whatever that might be. And so for me, my celebrations typically are a glass of Prosecco or champagne, or depending on who I'm with and where I am. I definitely wouldn't be drinking champagne out here. It's super expensive. But depending on where I am, I definitely would be like, let's have a glass of something bubbly, because I love bubbles. And I love pink sparkles is my favorite. But celebration can be as little as a high five. So Matt and I have this, we always high five after a clear round. Always after a clear round. And if it's not a clear round, and maybe I just had a good start line, my celebration might be as little as just acknowledging it. So just saying to Matt, hey, she got that start line. I'm really happy with that, because Skittles has been really hard to get to start line. She doesn't like start lining at all. And there was me going, she doesn't need a start line. She doesn't need a start line. And now I'm like, she needed a start line a long time ago. I think the other thing is rehearsing, repeating the success. So telling people about it, I think that is a form of celebration in the subtle space. I think that's a really nice thing to do. I think rewatching it sometimes can be celebratory. Popping it on, for me, I pop a lot of my good runs on reels with some music that I like, because it helps it in again for me, and again is celebratory. And then if it's not clear, then celebrating something within the run and just saying, I'm really pleased with this part of the run. And if there's nothing you're actually genuinely pleased with, then I might be pleased with the movement of the dog, or I might be pleased with the temperament of the dog, or I might be just pleased with the fact I've got the best darn looking dog out in that competition. Like, I'm going to find something I like. The dog looks fit, or the dog looks like they're in great condition, or Skittles always looks like she's got a gorgeous coat. Or one of my worst things to come out of a ring with is a dog that's lame. Like, if you come out of the ring because the dog's hurt, that's probably one of my worst. I struggle with finding good things in that. But other than that, we've just got to find something good that we want to celebrate on. And sometimes when you're angry at something, you're upset or frustrated or disappointed at something, that's not terrible either, because it gives you a bit more momentum to push for success later. So actually that can be really helpful too. So don't be disappointed on those, Kelly. Those for me, they still give me enough charge to push harder for next time.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. I get my last question is, when it comes to not the competition day, but when you're at home, do you kind of look at your videos and then take from those videos and then make like a training plan? Like, how do you move forward from a competition day so that you know that you're always improving?
Yeah, so I definitely 100% have a bit of a training plan. And my training plan is very, very simple, Kelly. I've got a flip chart paper of white paper. I've got a big flip chart paper of white paper, and I just rip it off as I go. I stick it up in my barn. It's nailed into the side of the wall, or I've got a flip chart. I can have a big carry-on flip chart, or I'll have a wall in the side of the barn where I stick it on something. And I'm very much like, I just write it up there. And so right now I would guess on Skittles is pull through lines, start lines, contacts in sequence, weave exits, rear crosses on weaves, rear crosses generally, push throughs. I've got some new verbal cues that I've been using because I realized I had some abnormalities. No, that's the wrong word for it. I had some crossover basically in my cues, and I needed to clean up my cues a bit. So I've changed a few of my cues because a couple of reasons. One, they sounded a bit too similar. And two, I had a bbrilliant trainer working with us, and she said, just don't know they're consistent. And I was like, no, they're really not. When I look at it, some of my words mean the same thing, but they're not the same. And so I've used the word to cross over into too many areas without getting too complex. And so I need to make it a bit cleaner for the dog. So it's got things like that written up on it. And then every day I might train, I don't know, 5 in 7 or 4 in 7. At the moment, I'd say none in 7 because it's cold. So I avoid training in the cold. And so I think winter, I'm like, yeah, it's time off for the dogs. And actually, it's just like I put my heated sort of socks on and hide. But for me, once I kick into, I also am very much like a goal. If I've got no competition coming up, I struggle to really fight hard to compete. So I'm going home. And when I go home, I've got a competition. Get home on the 4th, and I've got a competition on the 12th. So I've got a competition 7 days from when I get home, and that will get me training the next 7 days. And the reason it will get me training is the dogs will have had a rest, and I need to kick in with training again now. So that's very good for me to do that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, board, I tick alongside it. After 7 days, I look at where all the ticks are, and typically none of them are next to rear cross and all of them are next to running contacts. And then I go, you should rebalance this. And then I rip the thing. Next week I do loads of running contacts and no, and I go, Lauren, you should rebalance this. But we all train the things we like. And so I training running dog walks, and I hate training rear crosses. So I need to involve Selena Bray or Alan Bray or people that do, Amy, my friend, who do rear crosses way more than I do. But yeah, I think the training plan is exactly that, Kelly.
Yeah, brilliant.
And
I've loved this.
Yeah, don't make it complex. Like as soon as you start writing detail into it, for me, it's like, nah, I'm not doing that. It has to be really, really achievable. So for me, it's like simple. I tick it off. And like maybe I do 3 weaves, but I still tick against weaves because I did 3. What I don't want to do is 9 dog walks and nothing else. Like if I do weaves, I tick weaves. If I do dog walks, I tick dog walks. If I do pull throughs, I tick pull throughs. And then by the end of 7 days, I can see where my sort of scatter chart is. And I can go, okay, I can get rid of that, but I need to add that in. And then when I go to the next competition, I might add more in, or I might take something off. For example, what have I taken off lately? Seesaw, she's nailing it. Like she's really good at seesaws. In the ring, she's brilliant. I don't really need them on there anymore. Like they're not a problem, and they just need maintaining like anything else. Whereas tight turns are probably going to be on her list for the next 10 years. Like I don't think they're going to come off. So it's knowing where your weak areas lie, and then also importantly knowing what to do about it. If you don't know what to do about it, then that's equally frustrating. So that's when you need Agility Academy or support from a friend or a trainer, and even then some trainers don't know what to do about it. I was livid. I was training a student of mine the other day, and I said to her, look, this dog has to have running contacts. This is not okay, and stops. My trainer won't train stops. I'm like, change your trainer. Like this dog cannot, with carpus injuries, cannot do stopping contacts. This dog has to do running when it comes back to work in full. And she said, my trainer won't train it. I'm like, new trainer needed. And I really am not up for this. You can't tell your trainer where you train. Like you don't have to tell them everything, but like the fact that you're training, you should be open to progress. I think that's really important.
Yeah. I guess with that as well, just to add, is that not one person has all the answers. So if you've got one coach, it's okay to look for other ideas elsewhere, isn't it? Like there's
you watch the
more than one way to skin a cat, the saying goes.
Watch the centre, and we have I was just thinking about doing this summer. I was thinking about doing a camp where I bring in maybe 2 guest trainers, one trainer for 3 days and another trainer for 2 days. And it was running through my head, or whether I train for 2 days and bring the guest trainer in for 3 days, because I really love training with guest trainers. And I personally get a lot from it. And so, no, I don't want to stop bringing people in, even though they don't necessarily do everything the same as me. And I love that. Like that's part of culture and variety and understanding and growing. So yeah, absolutely, Kelly. Like for me, we should be able to cross over ideas, and that's how it's how we pollinate future. We want bees. We don't want things that kill it. We want the bees.
Yeah, I love it. So I think my major takeaway from this is Kelly needs to work on disengagement. That's about it.
Mine is Kelly needs to work on disengagement. And in addition to that, actually talking to you, I realised how much I love being a competitor. And I was thinking about this. I've been asked by a friend if I want to run her dog a little bit this year. And I'm so all in. And what I realise is I actually possibly prefer competing sometimes to anything else. I thrive off competition. I really love competition. And I was talking to my doctor, he's a private doctor, and I've seen him ever since my dad was diagnosed with cancer. And I think I wanted to check that I was healthy, really. And he said that testosterone is really important. And I only really just discovered that women have testosterone, to be honest. And it wasn't something I was on my horizon. And what he said is the reason you have, like, he said, I have good testosterone, which makes me laugh. I have good testosterone. And he thinks it's because I'm very, very, very competitive. And he thinks that that's actually very healthy, and it actually allows you and your blood work to be better. So I love being a competitor, and I'm glad we could share this. And I'm very, very happy to do a round 2 or round 3 or round 4 or round 5. You just shout. I think it's going to help a lot of people. I bet a lot of people enjoy listening to this. And in addition to this, I bet more will come of it, Kelly. So I think you'll get more questions as you go. But the other thing, I was sat out with a trainer the other day. I love this trainer, brilliant trainer. And he has 25 years more experience dog training than me. So he started training in his 20s, and he's then trained for 25 years. And he's probably trained 50 years, maybe maybe 55. He's trained for a long time. Kelly, I can't get that learning. The best way for me to do it is hack off his. I haven't got 55 years of dog training ahead of me. I mean, yeah, maybe in a like a scooter or something in 55 years, but you've just not, that's not how you're going to do this. You need to hack off others. And so the biohack is hack. Like, ask the competitive people. And if they're not willing to share, then there's going to be someone else who is, because sharing is caring is what makes the world tick. So I love talking to him. He's a brilliant trainer. Been doing it many, many years, in his late 70s. Fan-blooming-tastic. I can hack off him. Linda, gorgeous Linda, obedience Linda, hack off her. Like, the people you can hack off, I'm going to help her with competition. And that's what you want to do. You want to hack off the people that can, because you may as well shortcut this journey if you can jump and benefit from it.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you so much. This has been brilliant.
Yeah. So that was this episode of Sex and Squirrel podcast. I have absolutely loved talking to you about this. If you haven't already, jump into any of our training spaces, whether that be PTT Club, Games Club, Agility Academy, watching some of our YouTubes. There is so much content out there. The biggest thing I ask of all of you, we want to keep giving, we want to keep delivering, we want to keep making sure that all of you have the best content. Ask us for what you need. We will always help you. Please ask us questions. We're here for you. And in addition to asking us questions, absolutely 100% be there to listen to the answers. That might be on Circle, that might be here in the podcast. We are here for you. That was this episode of the Sexy and the Squirrel podcast. Thank you, Kelly, for joining us. And remember,
thank you.
Stay sexy.
Woo!